Hi everyone, welcome to week 6 lecture. And this week groups 6 and 7 made their presentations. And this week's focus is on Korean TV dramas and Korean TV programs, right? And group 5's presentation was about, Korean TV programs as like a format, as a global format system, and group 6 presentation was focusing on Korean dramas as like emotional coping media. And together, this week's readings and presentation show how Hallyu, the Korean wave, manages feelings and circulation. Okay, let's start with Group 5's main argument. The first argument was about the roles of the three genres, reality, quiz, and variety shows, in the new Korean wave. And they touched on that, like younger viewers, they prefer this kind of genres over like traditional Korean dramas, because Korean dramas are very time consuming. The format itself, you have to invest in like many hours, right? And you have to follow the stories to understand. If you just jump in the middle, it's hard to understand the storylines, right? And the second argument was about adapting the format led to Korean TV program success globally. And then also the third argument, the transnational Korean TV kind of programs helps the audience becoming more active viewers from like a traditionally more passive viewers, right? So for the internal connections, they made a connections to the readings in weeks 3, 4, and 5, and then the external connections, they chose these examples of MasterChef Korea and Girls Planet 999, right? So for these connection sections, especially the internal ones, if you cite the readings, so please on your slide, specify the author's last name, year, and the week's number. And it's best to add a sentence, not too long, to clearly show the connection between your argument and these readings that you're citing, right? For external connections as well, please make sure that you put the connection clearly in the text of your slide, right? And the connection section by group 5 were really good. And the discussion questions, is this increased audience participation empowers viewers or just make them feel like, they are empowered and there's no true sense of empowerment, right? So this is a very interesting question, and worth the topic that we worth talk about. So I will touch on this topic later on, right? And this unfamiliar format works better, or the format adapted to your own culture will work better, right? So this is also is a very interesting question, right? Do people seek something very unique and something different from their own culture when they consume popular culture, or they want something familiar to their own culture, right? So there's this very fine line in terms of making this balance, right? Korean content creators are very, they are very calculative, right? They know that if it's just uniquely only Korean, it may not work well, right? Because it's too foreign to other, non-Korean audience. But then if they make it like a very similar to what they're used to, they can create like American looking like shows or whatever, very close to what's produced in the States or whatever, right? They can do that because they're not only, as I told you before, it's not only Korean talent they use. It's like a global talent when they produce K-pop songs and stuff. So if they want to, they can create like something very close to whatever target culture is, right? But that may not work well, because then they lose this flavor of Korean, right? maybe some audience don't want something just, why would they just watch Korean TV dramas if that's the same as American TV dramas or TV series, right? So there's this very fine line between you make it familiar or you make it unfamiliar to the target culture or target audience, what they used to, right? And overall, great and very good engaging intro. It was really good, and the conclusion was thorough, and the delivery was also great. And a few members, especially toward the beginning, worked really hard to make like it's a presentation rather than just reading off the script. And the audio quality was constantly good. And I think there's some transition works, but a little more between the sections will work better. And the PPTs were really great. And adding the names under the talking heads, small windows, would have been worked well. And also adding one or two moving image clips into the slide would have been worked also well. Now, extending Group 5's argument, let's talk about the participation that also is linked to the group discussion question, right? They post, Group 5 post, right? So shows like audition programs make viewers feel active, right? You can vote, you can comment, and you follow contestants online, right? So for example, when you vote for a contestant, you feel like you are part of the show, right? But here is the key point. The system is already designed and you can only vote in certain ways at certain times, right? You cannot decide that, right? So participation feels empowering, but it is also controlled and also commercial, right? So viewers are not fully free creators. They become managed co-producers inside the system, within the system, right? So the key point is they're in a way co-producers but they're managed, right? They don't have real power of changing the format itself, right? So that is why Hallyu 2.0, like the new Korean wave, works so well. It keeps audience engaged without the systems losing control, right? So audience are engaged, but they don't have a full control, right? Okay, so let's move on to Group 6, 3 argument, right? The Group 6 reading was about the Vietnamese, the popularity of Korean romantic Korean TV dramas among the Vietnamese wives, right? So the first argument was that Vietnamese TV programs, dramas, they don't have a lot of content about romance, right? And then the second one is kind of a main argument, or the important argument of the whole reading and the presentation, right? And this melancholia, the concept of melancholia, kind of helps that Korean dramas are really why romantic dramas are popular among the Vietnamese housewives, right? And the last argument is this Korean romantic dramas or mass romantic culture lead to kind of helps these viewers to mourn emotional loss collectively. So it's not only personal experience, but they do this collectively, right? And the connections, the internal connection, they made like the connections to 3 course readings, right? But again, specify the author's last name, year, and the week's number, please, and state the connection clearly on the slide itself, right? And then external connection, one external reading, which I thought was very good reading to make a connection to. And then as an example, like a soft goal content. So the connection section was working well. Just making sure that you clearly state as a text what is the connection, right? And then just work on the referencing. So okay, let's move on to the discussion questions. The first question is: the Korean model of romance something uniquely Korean, or it's a packaged model of globally circulating romantic idea, right? Which is a very interesting question and worth talking about, right? And there must be something Korean in this Korean romantic drama, but the essence of it is must be, globally circulating idea about romance, right? And this is directly linked to the transnational or transcultural proximity, right? It's not just cultural proximity that because we share similar culture, we can relate to or we can understand better. There's something more deeper than that, depending on where you're from, what kind of culture you associate with. As a human being, there's certain things that we just can understand, right? And that is the concept of the transnational, transcultural proximity, right? And Korean romantic dramas too, they are talking about, as a human being, you can understand what love is, right? So it's not just uniquely Korean. It's not just uniquely Korean romance or romantic idea, right? They're building on this globally circulating romantic idea, right? And second question is the Korean wave about filling emotional gaps, or it's more than just cultural curiosity alone. Yeah, of course it's more than just cultural curiosity alone, right? And it's talking to these emotions and feelings, and sometimes it gives what you are lacking, what you can get from your culture's media product, right? Okay, and overall good to have intro and conclusion, right? But I think the intro can be slightly shortened and conclusion can be slightly more, can be strengthened slightly, right? And good delivery and audio quality. And it definitely need more transition work. And then it need a little more work on making more like a presentation than just reading off the script. And the PPT slides were excellent. And just adding the same comment, right? Just add names under the talking head and include one or two moving image clips would have been better. Okay, so just building on group 6's presentation, right? I just want to comment, make a brief comment, right? And the group of building on Group 6 presentation, they explained the melancholia as an unresolved emotional loss that stays inside people even in stable marriages, right? So I want to add here, what I want to add here is that the melancholia is not just personal, right? It is also social. So in many marriages, especially for women, not all emotions are treated equally. Feelings like care, responsibility, and patience are expected and praised in the culture, but romantic longing or emotional dissatisfaction is often treated as something that should stay quiet. You cannot really freely talk about it. So marriage doesn't just organize daily life, it also organizes which emotions are acceptable and which emotions you can speak up or which emotions you have to hide, right? So in this context, Korean dramas don't push women to leave their marriages. Instead, they help women manage this kind of emotions, right? That the emotions that they are not allowed to freely talk about. And so they can manage these emotions. It helps them to stay in the marriage, right? So it's not like make them to leave their marriage, right? So rather than singing Korean dramas as simple escape, we can see them as a way women regulate emotions while staying within social expectations, and while staying in their marriages. And now, extending Group 6 argument, the key point of this slide is that Korean dramas are not unique, right? What they do with this unresolved emotions, right? What makes them important is what they do, not what they come from, like from Korea, right? Korean dramas are one example of what we call melancholic media that allows people to feel sadness, longing, or loss safely, right? We can see similar patterns today in other types of media, right? Romance content, like even romantic novels, or lifestyle videos, or other like a media product, right? Do very similar things. So these media forms let people feel recognized emotionally. So this kind of media forms let people feel this all sorts of sad and longing and loss, this kind of emotions, right? But they don't require real social change. So the loss stays, but it becomes manageable, right? You don't need to leave your marriage, right? So the big takeaway here is that melancholic media helps people endure life under constraints rather than change these life constraints themselves, right? So that's why K-dramas work so well in this case, not because they are from Korea, but because they offer emotional recognition without social disruption, right? And in conclusion, right, Group 5 showed how Korean television manages global circulation through formats, and Group 6 showed how Korean dramas manage emotional loss without social disruption, right? So in both cases, Korean media does not simply export culture or something uniquely Korean culture, right? But rather they organize how people feel and how media travels, right? So Hallyu succeed by managing emotion and participation and circulation of media, not by cultural purity, meaning not by being uniquely Korean or not by being, purely somewhat Korean, right? And thank you so much for your attention. And next week is the reading week, so I hope you can have some time off from work and have something fun at least. And I hope you guys started working on the personal narrative essay project, right, with your group members. Okay, if you have any questions about it, you can email me, right? Okay, have a wonderful reading week.